Hello! Hope you really enjoyed your Guru Nanak Jayanti, Guru Parab festivities. Enjoyed our Beyond the Plate special episode where Chef Amrita Raichand told you last week how to make Kada Prasad, which is really, food from the gods. Hi Amrita, how are you? Welcome back.
Hi Rishi, good morning to you. I'm very well, and can you see the halo around me? That's all thanks to the wonderful Guru Purab that we attended last week.
Listen, this week is Navy Week, and you ought to be really proud because I believe many prominent members of your family have been decorated by the Indian Navy or the Indian Armed Forces at large. Tell us about that before we begin.
Yes, Rishi, I'm very fortunate. I've been married into a complete Fauji family. In fact, I've carried my father-in-law's picture, the very handsome Captain Vijay Raichand.
Men in their uniforms, lovely.
Men in the uniform. He's a decorated naval officer and was the captain of the INS Vikrant. In fact, one of our uncles is also, he was part of the army. He was the general with Bengal sappers. My other uncle was the head of one para. While our granddad, believe it or not, was in the cavalry, and great-granddad was head of Jodhpur Lancers. Of course, that was pre-partition when you had the state forces, and he actually attended the Queen's coronation, the Queen Victoria's coronation as well.
Wow, the grand old lady. Now, I understand Navy Week was initially celebrated by the colonials for a particular reason, and obviously that changed with the independence of India because we found our own meanings in dates as opposed to just following the colonials blindly. So let's talk about that, please.
Yeah, so originally India Navy Week was celebrated on 15th of December as a British tradition in memory of the Battle of Trafalgar. However, after the 1971 war with Pakistan, this date changed to 4th December after the successful Operation Trident, where the Indian Navy absolutely destroyed the Karachi port and surrounding area. On this day, we pay homage, like they say in French, to the brave Indian sailors who died serving our country and recognize the achievements and role of the Indian Navy to the country.
You know, I'm really looking forward to the 1st of December because one of my friends and one of India's foremost filmmakers, Meghna Gulzar. Meghna made a delightful film called Talwar, another one called Razi. And we just interviewed her for Sam Bahadur, which is the biopic for the great Field Marshal Sam Manekshaw.
Yeah.
And we knew that Mrs. Indira Gandhi, then Prime Minister of India, shared a very healthy relationship with at the time, General Sam. But you have heard of some stories firsthand from an Admiral.
Yes.
So talk about that.
Admiral Nanda, as a matter of fact, who was the chief of naval staff then, and he's a very, very close family friend. So he's no more now, but a few years ago when he was over for lunch, he told us a very interesting story which actually, about how the whole Operation Trident started. So apparently this issue started when, like you said, Mrs. Gandhi had a very healthy relationship with all the forces, the heads of all the forces. So having said that, when in the war room, discussions on war preparation would happen, she would start the discussion with General Sam Manekshaw, then move on to the Air Vice Marshal Lal, and even before Navy's turn would come, she would just finish off the meeting and walk off.
Wow.
It's
like doctors and dentists.
Yeah.
Regular guys who do the MBBS and MD will always look down on dentists, but the dentists have the last laugh because they make the maximum money.
That's true, but it wasn't like she looked down upon them. It's just that at that time, probably they thought that Indian Navy did not have much to contribute during the war. So this obviously annoyed Admiral Nanda no end, and he called a meeting with all the senior officers and said, gentlemen, there's a war going on with Pakistan. What's the Indian Navy doing? What is the role that we are playing? So they said, sir, we are protecting our Indian shores. He said, okay. What is Pakistan doing while this war is going on? He said, the officer said, they are protecting the Pakistan shores. So he turned around and said that, wait a minute, you're protecting our shores, they are protecting their shores, then who the hell is attacking? Wow. And that got the ball rolling on strategizing Operation Trident, which has now gone on to become one of the greatest modern day naval battles in the world.
Yeah, if you could briefly describe what happened on the night or the events leading up to that night, it'll be lovely.
Yeah, so he told us the story, and I have first-hand information from him. So they got these missile boats that were very small, and they were originally procured for the defense of the Bombay Harbour. those boats were used for the attack. However, since they were not big enough, they didn't have enough fuel capacity. What they did was they towed them all the way to the Gujarat coast from Mumbai, and in the cover of the night, they attacked the Karachi port with missiles, which went on to destroy Pakistani naval ships, Karachi port, and adjoining fuel storage tanks. It was stated, Rishi, that the fire was so high that it could be seen from over 100 miles away.
Wow.
Yeah, and then, guess what? Early the next morning, when there was chaos around Karachi, the Indian Air Force followed this entire attack up with an air attack and blew up all the runways. And why did they do that? So that the Pakistani Air Force planes could not attack our little missile boats at sea while they were returning home. Else they would be sitting ducks, right?
Absolutely.
And that's how Operation Trident concluded victoriously.
Lovely. So what happens during Navy Week? I imagine, there's a open door policy. It's one of the few days when one can go and visit the ships and, have a good time.
It's absolutely wonderful. The whole week, and in fact a few days prior to, there is a lot of action to get the public involved in marine tradition. There's open sea swimming competition, Indian Navy inter-school competition starts, ships open up like you mentioned, and visitors and school children can go and visit it. There is a veteran sailors lunch, performances by the Naval Symphonic Orchestra, a Navy half marathon, as well as an air display takes place, and finally it concludes with the beating of the retreat and tattoo ceremonies. It's all very grand and very
of
fabulous.
Course, the naval queen is crowned in the pageant.
Not anymore, though.
I remember back in the day when the naval queen pageant used to happen. Brian Tellis used to be the anchor, and all of us, as college kids working in radio stations would go up to him and say, listen, you're the anchor, you get some passes, so that we can go and check it out and things like that. Well, it's unfortunate, so that tradition doesn't remain anymore.
No, it doesn't remain anymore. And even I remember it because I used to live in Andheri, and from my college days, we used to try and see, who can we call as relative and enter, and because everybody said you should take part in that Naval Queen competition. Well, neither did I ever take part, and neither did clearly I win. But yeah, those were great days.
Listen, some traditions and customs on Beyond the Plate, things that have been passed on from the Navy from time immemorial. I'd like you to go through that, and you'd also like to doff your hat to a particular admiral who's written this wonderful book.
Yes, so retired Admiral Vijay Malhotra, who happens to be a very good family friend again, he's written this book on naval traditions. It's called Time, Tide and Tradition of Indian Navy. You should get your hands on it, Rishi. It's a wonderful book. I've also read bits and parts of it, and I'm going to talk about a few traditions that he, who's mentioned there. In fact, two principal pillars to maintain the morale of the sailors on the ship used to be food and mail.
Nice.
Because mail would connect the families of sailors during their long absence on the ships from home ports. So prior to the internet age, what used to happen is that the mails were sent to the fleet mail office, because they would be the ones who knew where the respective ship will port next, and they would time their mail to reach all the officers who got the mail. Now, talking about some great food traditions. How do you toast, Rishi? When you raise a toast to somebody, how do you do it?
I'll just lift your arm and go.
But you would also stand, right?
You stand and you make a small little speech, and then you just go bottoms up.
But guess what? In the Navy, there is a tradition that you do not need to stand up to raise a toast.
Wow.
And guess why? It's all very practical, because old ships and decks were so low that if somebody would stand up, they would hit their head.
Wow.
So only the Navy is excused till today to sit and toast as a royal decree. Now, of course, there's some things that have changed. The Gandhian influence has managed to creep into the Indian Navy. So earlier, the toasting would happen with a glass of wine. Now it happens with a glass of water. You've seen our own PM carry a glass of water when he went to the White House earlier this year, right? All right. The other one is a very spooky tradition. It's not a tradition. It's a superstition. So you never let a tumbler chime at a naval function.
Oh.
As if by mistake, you hit a glass tumbler and you get that sound, that little chiming sound. If you allow it to happen, they say that a sailor somewhere in the world dies.
Ouch.
So that's a little, sad superstition out there. But moving on to a fascinating custom that still goes on. If there is a chief guest that is invited on a ship, before he eats or drinks anything, the head steward has to do the tasting. in his presence or her presence at the start of the dinner. This tradition is, of course, been carried on like
Yeah, it
always.
looks like something that the Romans would do before their emperors partake of festivities or feasts.
Yeah, this is obviously to prevent poisoning, right? If there's any such case, it's all going to happen in front of you. Another very, very interesting anecdote. In the Navy, lunch is called supper and dinner continues to be called dinner. Quite sweet, huh?
Interesting.
Yeah.
Listen, the Ask Amrita section is going to come up at the end of the show. All you have to do is ask any question about food tradition, food stories or recipes. 9833943943. That's 9833943943. Amrita answers all questions sent to us with great dexterity. Also, the show comes to you 8:15 a.m. on Mondays. 94.3 Radio 1, Mumbai, Delhi, Bangalore, Chennai. 2 days later, that's Wednesday, a full video episode is on YouTube at the Radio 1 International YouTube channel. Amrita's recipe of the day is at 94.3 Radio 1 in India and at Amrita Raichand. And of course, the extended version is on Chef and Beyond, the YouTube channel. So come on now, the Navy and food. Let's talk about that.
Yes, we're going to talk about what you can do if you want to become a chef and still be a part of the Indian Navy. But I want to just add one line here. Remember, I spoke to you about supper and dinner. It's a very sweet tradition that the commanding officer will always eat only after the sailors eat.
How cool.
Because they obviously believe that
That's amazing.
Welfare of men comes first and every
That's
time.
really, really amazing.
Yeah. So talking about food, you can, I wish I knew this and I could have joined the Indian Navy and become a chef. You can actually be a part of a very wonderful training school for chefs. And you can join INS Hamla in the outskirts of Mumbai if you want to join the Navy and be a chef, like I would have loved to do. And guess what they teach you right in the beginning? They teach you to make a killer caramel custard.
Yummy.
Because no naval officer will go without one.
Which is what you must have been your check before you got married.
Yeah, I was actually made to make the caramel custard. That was, I think, my test from my father-in-law. Say, only if she can make a good caramel custard will she be my good daughter-in-law.
Which segues so beautifully into our recipe of the week. The caramel custard by Chef Amrita Raichand.
Okay, so this is very simple and mostly a caramel custard would be made in the oven. Now here's a very good recipe. You can actually make this in the cooker. So anybody and everybody can make this. So ingredients are eggs, milk, corn flour, vanilla essence, sugar and butter. What we do is in a bowl we'll whisk away the eggs, combine them well, then we add the milk, then the corn flour and the other ingredients. Now in a pan we'll add some butter and sugar and let it caramelize. Basically we allow the sugar to melt and caramelize. Now this caramelized sugar will be poured on the base of a cake tin, and then the mixture of eggs and milk that we made, that will be poured in it. We're going to add this pan to a pressure cooker with a little bit of water. It should not come over the pan. Of course, you have to let the caramel set first. You need to set it. Only then pour the egg mixture. Then you put it in the pressure cooker. Then allow it 3 to 4 whistles. It's nice and set, but it shouldn't be hard. So it should be slightly jiggly in the center. Once it's at room temperature, you put it in the fridge to set completely. And then you demold it and serve chilled.
Yummy caramel custard, courtesy Chef Amrita Raichand. The Ask Amrita Raichand section has Munaz today. Munaz says, Amrita, do you have any favorite smoothie recipes that you find both delicious as well as healthy?
Yes, I actually love smoothies, and my smoothies are always made with yogurt. And now to yogurt, you can add any fruit of choice, you can add nuts of choice, you can add oats, you can add some chocolate, and you can make the smoothie of your choice. I have an entire playlist of smoothies on my YouTube channel. I also have a guide on my Instagram account. They're called Delicious Smoothies. Please check it out and you will find great recipes that you will love.
That is the YouTube channel Amrita Raichand, Chef and Beyond. We're going to see you next Monday, 8:15 a.m. onwards. Mumbai, Delhi, Bangalore, Chennai on 94.3 Radio 1. Chef Amrita Raichand, thank you so much for your time. I look forward to your company next week. Bye-bye.
See you very soon.
94.3 Radio 1.